Well, hey there, church. I hope that you've been having a great week. This is one of our weekly devotionals in the Psalms. I wanted to start this time with an adage that I read recently that says that prayer should be the key to the day or of the day. And the implication here is that when we start our morning in prayer, it unlocks the day for us so that we begin to set our mind on the path of godliness that our God has for us. To that end, it's interesting, as I did a little research on this, I saw at least 4 times in the Psalms where the psalmist begins their day in prayer, speaks about this idea of beginning their day on their face before their God. And David is one of these specifically that we want to look at today in Psalm chapter 5. Now, I know as the vessel we typically utilize the ESV translation. It's just simpler to kind of keep everybody on the same page. But as I was studying through this, the New English Translation, or the Net Bible, is the one that I just really resonated with me today. And so I wanted to share from it, and hopefully you can pick up on some of the things that were encouraging to me in this. So David says, "Listen to what I say, Lord. Carefully consider my complaint. Pay attention to my cry for help, my King and my God, for I am praying to you. Lord, in the morning you will hear me. In the morning I will present my case to you, and then wait expectantly for an answer. Certainly you are not a God who approves of evil. Evil people cannot dwell with you. Arrogant people cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who behave wickedly. You destroy liars. The Lord despises violent and deceitful people. But as for me, because of your great faithfulness, I will enter your house. I will bow down towards your holy temple and worship you. Lord, lead me in righteousness because of those who wait to ambush me. Remove the obstacles in the way in which you are guiding me, for they do not speak the truth. Their stomachs are like the place of destruction. Their throats are like an open grave. Their tongues like a steep slope leading into it. Condemn them, O God. May their own schemes be their downfall. Drive them away because of their many acts of insurrection, for they have rebelled against you. But may all who take shelter in you be happy. May they continually shout for joy. Shelter them, so that those who are loyal to you may rejoice. Certainly you reward the godly, Lord. Like a shield, you protect them in your good favor." There's plenty in this text to be able to unpack, but for our time today, I want to make sure and keep it concise and not go overboard with some of this. And so I want to really focus in on David starting his day in prayer. And now, maybe I'll mention this again here in a little bit, but I understand that we all approach this in different ways. Some people are morning people, some people are night owls. Whatever that is, let me encourage you to kind of shift your focus a little bit here on the importance of being a person who seeks out the Lord in prayer. Being a person who begins, at least for a moment, their day on their face before their God. I don't know the exact circumstances of what are going on for David here in this. I do know in the Psalms that David faces Saul trying to kill him. He even faces his own children trying to kill him. There's invaders who are trying to take over Israel that he fights against constantly, trying to protect the people that he's given charge over. It could be so many different things, but we know at the very least that there is so much weight on David that he is running before the Father, that he is falling on his face each morning asking for help. Our circumstances are probably different. We live in a pretty comfortable place that I know of. We typically don't face invaders, though I will say there are times when money gets stuck in one of my Coke machines that I have been threatened over 75 cents, which is an odd thing, but people get upset about their snacks, and I get it. But that's a rare occasion, so we typically don't face those things. I don't know that my kids are trying to kill me, at least right now. It may come later on as I discipline them and shape them as they grow, but the things that we face here typically aren't that intense. Now, I know we have brothers and sisters in Christ around the world that face losing their lives every single day. And we certainly want to be praying for them. But for us, I think the battle may be a little bit different. I think if we flip this a little bit and recognize the battle of the flesh that each of us face, I think it may give us some better insight into this text. David, back in verses 4-6, he says, "Certainly you are not a God who approves of evil. Evil people cannot dwell with you. Arrogant people cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who behave wickedly. You destroy liars. The Lord despises violent and deceitful people." There's an intensity to the words that David uses to understand what the Lord thinks of wickedness and evil. Now, if you and I stop and reflect for a little bit in this, we probably can see a little bit of ourselves come out in this. We know that there are times that we don't look like Christ. We know there are times that our old self begins to come back out, that flesh begins to have control over us. And so maybe for us, as we start our day, the cry is that the Lord, as He leads us in righteousness, that we'll run from the evil desires of the flesh that don't bring honor to our Father. How many times do you start your day as David does in verse 8 saying, "Lord, lead me in righteousness"? I want the way I speak and talk and act throughout my day to look like Christ in all that I do. David uses some pretty interesting language in verse 9. He uses parts of the body to give us very visual ideas, speaking of the stomach and the tongue and the throat. The New English Translation Notes give some insight into this. It said, the psalmist's deceitful enemies are compared to the realm of death and Sheol. In verses 9b, the latter part of verse 9, Sheol was envisioned as a dark region within the earth, the entrance to which was the grave with its steep slopes. The enemy's victims are pictured here as slipping down the steep slope through enemies' tongues and falling into the open grave, their throat, that terminates in destruction in the inner recesses of Sheol, their stomach. The enemies refer here to their thoughts and motives, which are destruction in their tent. The throat is where the destructive thoughts are transformed into words, and their tongue is what they use to speak the deceitful words that lead their innocent victims into demise. I don't know about you, but I don't have to look at anybody else to find that kind of wickedness. I know what happens in my life. I know what comes from my mouth. And that's what I want the Lord to reshape. But David says something really interesting here. He says, "Lord, I need you to lead me in righteousness. You, Lord, lead me to this truth, to this life that is good, to this life is worthwhile." And I think that is so important for us because we say often enough that you can probably know exactly what I'm about to say before I even say it. We believe in lives centered on the gospel. The gospel is not just the starting point of salvation, but it shapes every aspect of who we are. And David's cry echoes this mentality. Though the Messiah had not come yet, David is looking forward to the Messiah that would come. We look back to him. David looks forward and says, "Lead me through what I can't do, in the failures of me every day, in the failures of the world around me every day, I need you to lead me to righteousness. That's why we need the gospel. That's why we speak it in every sermon that we teach, in every devotional that we do, and every opportunity that we gather as missional communities. We want the gospel to be central because it begins to change our thinking. It's only through the gospel of Jesus Christ that this righteousness begins to play out in my day-to-day. It speaks into the times that the flesh tries to take control. It tells me there is a better way to love my spouse and my children. There's a better way to speak encouragement into their life. The way I deal with my neighbors, there's a better way that shows them hope. When it comes to my treasure, when it comes to my time, when it comes to my talents, the gospel says there is a better way. There is something so much more of value because of what Christ did on the cross and what he's doing in your life. And that old flesh is just going to destroy it. That old way of thinking is going to fail you over and over and over. So I want to encourage you with this time. I've run a little long in this, and if you're still tuning in, I appreciate it. If you look at your day ahead of you and you think, man, I have fought every single day to be righteous, maybe the problem is you've never truly known the gospel. That you've never, like David, run to God for righteousness for your day. If that's true of you, maybe you've even sat in church for years, but you've never truly known what it means for the gospel to transform every aspect of your life. Let me encourage you to reach out to us. Reach out to your friend that you worship with often. Maybe it's somebody in your MC or your MC leader. Or, as one of the pastors, I can tell you we'd love to be able to talk with you and encourage you, to lead you down that path of righteousness that comes through knowing Christ. For those of you that look at this and go, man, I know without a shadow of a doubt that the gospel has transformed my life. Maybe one of the things that needs to change for us is falling on our face every day before the Father. To confess my weakness, to confess the old fleshly nature that demands so much of me. That open grave from the tongue and the throat and the stomach that wants to bring destruction. That can be tamed and that can be shaped through what Christ has done in your life. And he wants you to find the satisfaction of living that out. Now, I'm not sitting here as someone who has this figured out yet. I still fail at this. Don't ask my wife, don't ask my kids, because they'll be honest with you. But just trust me in this and knowing that I am still being shaped in this every day. The Father, through the Son, through Christ, and the sacrifice that he made on the cross, was not just a one-time event, but it is a life-changing, every aspect of my life-changing journey. We want to walk with you in that as the vessel. So I hope this is an encouragement to you. We look forward to getting to finally worship together again this Sunday as one voice and one place. If you have any questions about any of those things, if you have any questions about anything that I've shared today, please reach out to us. Love you guys. Hope you have a great week and look forward to seeing you soon.